Oh, that one's off. Well, good evening. If you'll please stand, Sister Jane will have us a song and remain standing for prayer.
Page 516.
prayer requests this evening?
Brother Chad, my brother took another turn. They're going to do a cardio version of him in the morning, and all kind of other crazy stuff.
Okay.
Keep going in prayer.
Peg 2.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Amen. Yeah. Amen.
And then Tessa and Facebook are teaching Saturday to go to Florida and improve. I'm just asking y'all to pray to do most of all, they will see.
Yeah. Bless you. How about unspoken requests? All throughout. Brother Rod, will you lead us in prayer, sir? Amen. You may be seated. All right. Let's see why this one's not working. I turn that one off now? Nope. Oh, there we go. All right. All right, this evening we're going to cover the last part of our trip. This will be a few days in one. I mentioned before that the last part of our trip was more vacation mode, relaxing and those things. We did some neat things, but there's not a whole lot of, now there's some biblical things, but we saw some road signs that you'll see that I'll point out. But on this particular day, we that is the Dead Sea you see in the background with the rainbow. This was, if I remember right, we didn't get to go to Qumran or Masada rather, because the storms. They had some torrential downpours, which is very odd in that range, and it shut the roads down, and we weren't able to go up to the very top up there. So you can see, obviously, the rainbow, and it was raining there. And again, this is one of those things where you'll probably see a few of these pictures as we go, because you just don't know if you're going to get the next best shot of what it is that you're coming up on. So this is a place that we stopped, the Balm of Gilead farm. This guy was a pretty interesting fellow. We won't take a whole lot of time here, but he does a lot of his own teas, which was not my cup of tea. Amen. I've been waiting all year to say that. I'm just kidding. But anyways, this will kind of show you the lifestyle. He's chose this. Obviously, he could live in the city. He could go to any one of the cities around, but he owns this farm. And you can see him here, and you can see what he's got around his. He's got a rifle, and if you remember, he's retired from the military, but he's can always be called back to service. But they're allowed one weapon. If you remember, they can have a sidearm or they can have a rifle, and he chooses to have the rifle. And this is just what you see. It's everyday life, and he's out there by himself. He's not completely excluded where he's at, but he is out there, and this is just his way of life. And he makes teas and herbs, and you can see he's doing that here. So nice gentleman. It was a little cold and rainy while we were there, but still good to see different things. This is the landscape. We're in the middle of the desert right here, by the way. I'm sure you could tell, but we're on our way. We're going to the southernmost end of Israel. We're on our way to Eilat. Eilat is the southernmost city. It sits on the Red Sea. It's a vibrant city. There's a lot there. It's not big, but it's very vibrant. But this is the desert. This is the space basically between Jerusalem, you'd say, all the way down to the southern tip of Israel. And if you remember, the country is kind of shaped like this. It widens out and it teardrops back down. And so we're halfway down and going down to Eilat at this point. Now this is the Dead Sea as we're coming off. We had a pretty big elevation drop. I don't remember exactly what the elevation drop was. It was enough to make your ears pop. You know, if you've been flying in a plane or you come off a large mountaintop, this is very deceiving on how much of an elevation drop this was. But that's the Dead Sea in the background. You can see, and all that white that you see, by the way, is salt. And you'll see some pictures here in the next few minutes, some other up close pictures. But this is as we're coming off the hill. We're going to stay the night at the Dead Sea, and then get up and we go to Petra, right? We went to Petra the next, yeah. Very beautiful, very pretty countryside. And all that white you see there, by the way, that is salt. It looks like all of this would be, you would think, dirt, and there is a layer of dirt that is on there, but it's very thin. But all this is actually salt right here. I'll show you a video. There's not really sound to it here in a few minutes. It'll kind of shock you on just how high up that salt really goes. Yes. So I don't remember if I said this or not, but the Dead Sea is lowering, is it 3 feet a year? Is that right? I think that's what he said. So the Dead Sea, the sea level is dropping 3 foot a year. And the reason that is the water that runs, the majority of the water that runs into the Dead Sea comes from the Jordan River. And remember, the headwaters of the Jordan River go all the way back up to Mount Hermon. They flow through the Sea of Galilee. They come out the south end of the Sea of Galilee, flow all the way down into the Dead Sea. And one of the problems is the Jordanians in particular are taking the fresh water from the Sea of Galilee, from the freshwater sources of the Jordan River and such, and then they don't have a lot of water going into the Dead Sea. So it's causing the fresh water that turns out to be the saltiest water in the world ends up not making it there because the Jordanians are taking it and using the fresh water. And so it's receding. I'm pretty sure it was 3 foot a year is the water levels dropping 3 foot a year. Ido was telling us that the landscape looks completely different from when he was a kid. It's unbelievable the difference of what the Dead Sea looks like now compared to what it did. This is from our hotel room that we stayed at to the Dead Sea, and all that white again that you see right there, that is salt. Well, yeah, it was cold. It was really cold. We went for a dip in this, and it was pretty chilly. I think Tim. Yeah, and the amount of sharks. Yeah, that's right. I think Tim, you've been here, right? You've been to the Dead Sea. No, Tim isn't. Okay. Um, it's a pretty view. So you're. I know you guys like direction, right? My wife loves this. You're facing towards Jordan. What you can't see in the background, if it wasn't cloudy, you could see the country of Jordan in the background. Is kind of what you're looking at here, and that's just a panoramic view from our hotel room. Yes, ma'am. The reason it's called the Dead Sea is nothing lives there. So any other body of water, let's say the vast majority of bodies of water, have creatures living in it, right? Toads and frogs and fish and worms and all those little creepy crawly things. Well, the salt content of the Dead Sea, it's so salty that nothing can live there. It can't sustain life. Somebody help me out if you know. Tim might know, but the salt content is like, man, it's like 8 or 10 times more than the ocean or something silly. It's crazy. Yeah, yeah. Well, I got you. Remind me of that in just a minute. I don't think we have any pictures of me doing it, but I'll show you this time lapse video. So I set this iPad out up on I built a nice little structure. Chelsea should have taken a picture of it because it was really cool. I just got a bunch of furniture off of our patio and built this little structure, and I put the iPad up there and I put it on what do you call it? It takes a picture like every minute, and it gives you like a time lapse video is what I did. So I'll show you a time lapse video. This is watching the sunrise. So again, you're looking at Jordan. You're looking to the east, so the sun's going to rise in the east. It's hard to see because it's really cloudy. You'll have a breakthrough but it's just neat to be able to see things are coming to life. You won't be able to tell it, but there's a group of people that come in that little nook right there. That's us, where we go for a little swim. Now, to what Tim said a minute ago, Ito told us before he went out, he said, listen, he said, there have been 0 deaths of drowning in the Dead Sea. So don't you be the first, okay? But I'll tell you how salty it is. I can absolutely float nowhere. I'm just not built that way. A few years ago, Chelsea got this little, and some of the ladies will appreciate this, guys. I don't know if you're with me or not, but this little float thing you got in this pod, and it was really salty, and you could lay there. And I found myself like I'd float like 3 inches and hit my head, float 3 inches and hit my head, And so it was supposed to be relaxing. It wasn't very relaxing for me. That's the only place I've ever floated in my life, other than the Dead Sea. And I had my doubts. I'll just be honest, because I just don't float. Well, not only did I float, kind of put it in perspective. I get out there. And if you can't float, then you can kind of relate with me. You get really anxious because it just doesn't work. You can try to throw your feet up and they just sink and you fall down. So I sat down, I put my feet up, and I really slowly put my head back, and I kept my hands where I could make sure, and then I floated. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I raised my hands above my head, right, and lifted my back a little bit out of the water. And then I took my feet and started raising them up. And I still floated. My problem was I couldn't keep straight. But if it was possible that somebody would just hold me from going left or right, I was almost on my backside here and could completely float, just on my, actually like a little bubble, and that was it. And I'll tell you how salty it is. One of the ladies, she was almost the first death. So she was probably from me to Mike, about from me to Mike now. And she wanted to float on her belly. And so she goes out there and she floats, and she just lays out and she's just floating on her belly. Well, it's so buoyant, she couldn't get her feet back up underneath of her. And she started to get tired, and her head started dripping down. And she looked at me and she said, help, help. And I was like, oh, so I went over and I grabbed her, and she had like the fear of death on her face because it was so buoyant. She couldn't get her feet back up underneath of her because the water was just pushing her back out. And she couldn't get her feet back up underneath of her to stand up. And so that's how buoyant it is. You can't, by the way, if you ever go and you just roll on your back and then get up, right? But
Probably don't want much of that drink.
no, it is very salty. So this picture, Chelsea and I took, this is about 10 after 6. Yeah. We went out to watch the sunrise, and we had set the time-lapse video up, and we were out till, what was 8, wasn't it? Because I don't like breakfast. Was it 7? 7. Breakfast started at 7, so we meandered around, walked around, and then we had got up to about our knees in the water, and it was cold. And we go inside, and we sat down, we started having breakfast, and we were, let me see, I don't have any pictures of it. Well, this is at 6:53. Chelsea, that's Chelsea's feet. She's standing in, that's salt. That is what you walk on when you're in, she's literally in the water. That's about ankle deep right there. And that is just, it does not feel like sand. It is like rock hard salt. So we do this, and we go inside for breakfast. We already have our swim trunks on. We're like kids at the candy store. We're ready to go. And then everybody else, there were other people out walking around. We go in for breakfast. We eat. And I think it was around 8:30 or so, if I remember right. A group wanted to go back out. I was ready to go back out as soon as we ate. I was going to go back out and go for a swim. And so, but we waited for a bunch of people to go out. And Chelsea, this is the truth. Chelsea can tell you that water that I got up to my knees, an hour and a half later, there was still water on my legs. It hadn't dried. And it was like a sheen that was over your leg. Like it didn't glisten or anything like that, but it left like a sheen, almost like an oily type feeling-ish. It's kind of hard to describe, but the water didn't evaporate. It was still on my legs an hour and a half later. Do what? Yeah, I'm sure it was water. Well, nothing's alive, so it was clear. Oh, did you? Yeah, but they're somewhat rare. They'd had one the day before, and I don't know. No, not that I'm aware of. Now when we were the day before the storm we saw, we didn't drive through it. We drove after, and it looked nasty. It was black, just like it would be here, but I'm not sure what actually happened with that. Give me half a second here. Chelsea sent me my floating video. I'm going to add it here so you guys can see it. 12. I don't know if this will work or not, so just bear with me. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. No, just kidding. There it is. That's like a world phenomenon, by the way. That just doesn't happen. It was really scary, if I'm truthful. I wasn't expecting her to send this. I don't have the sound on. But it was cold. I think it was 70 or something like that. The hotel actually took Dead Sea water, and they pump it into an indoor pool, and they heat it to, I don't know, what was it, 85 or something like that. It was pretty warm. So the people that show up to the hotel, if it's like wintertime and it's cold, that want to experience the Dead Sea, they actually pump that water in. And so we went inside and we swam a little bit. It was nice. So we did have that ability as well to go in the hotel and do that. Sorry. She missed it. Yes. She was sleeping on the bus. And move. This is what they say. Now you have to take this with a grain of salt. No pun intended, but they say this is Lot's wife. And Edo's told us that this is a pillar of salt, by the way. This has moved multiple locations over the years, Edo has told us, but the representation is somewhere in the general vicinity of where we're at that it happened. I know this looks brown. Obviously, it is brown. Looks deceiving there, and I got a video I'll show you. There is just a very small, thin layer of dust on this, but that is actually salt. And Edo told us, we stopped. We actually were driving down the highway. He tells Aaron to pull off the road. Of course, he knew we were going to. We pull off, and he told everyone, hurry up, you can go out and take a picture and see it. It really wasn't like we're going to stop for an hour or so. It's like a 10-minute stop, take your picture, come back. And then, so I come back, and he says, hey, take this bottle of water. And he says, run up on this hill and video it when you do it. And you'll see here, this is the brown that that's the brown that you're looking at way back. And I'll step back and show you. I could see it with my eye there, but you can see a very thin layer of dust just come off. And if you were to scrub a little bit, it would turn white, like the little white spots you see. But you see as I step back how brown that is, but that's actually salt. And you'll see just how high and just how big this salt rock face is. That's all salt right there. And it spans, I know it's hard to see, but it spans, Lord, for miles and miles and miles and this is on the Egypt, not the Egypt side, but where Egypt would be if you're going south, it'd be on your right-hand side. But anyways, this is a salt plant where they harvest salt off of the Dead Sea. This is part of going through the wilderness that the Israelites would have went through. You can see like in the background all the way back in the back there. This is the land of sin, the wilderness, Exodus 16, 1 through 3. This sign just represents the general vicinity of where they believe that this happened. Again, some of this is this the exact spot? Maybe, maybe not, but this is an old riverbed, is what that sign is saying. Paran, you can find this in Numbers 12, 9 through 6, just bringing Scripture to life. And that is Jordan, the country of Jordan in the background. And that's actually where we're going the next day. We're going to Petra the next day. It's a beautiful country. You can see they've planted those trees in the middle of the desert. They're date trees. I knew you'd remember. I'll zoom in right here. That is a missile battery, and that is part of the Iron Dome. If you remember way back when we went to the Gaza Strip, and you saw that laser that I pointed out, that's part of the Iron Dome as well. But this is a missile battery on the southern part of Israel that if there's missiles that come across from wherever they're going to come from, this is one of the missile batteries that would intercept as part of that collective group. You can see it there. This is a little military outpost. You can see it up on the hill right there. And this is Eilat. You're looking at the Red Sea, the very northern tip of the Red Sea. Is what you're seeing here. This is the city I told you about, the southernmost city in Israel. It is a vibrant city, as you can tell, the marina that's there. and I did a time-lapse video I'll show you of a sunset looking towards Egypt. Just so kind of to put this in perspective, let me pull my map up so you guys can see that. Where is my map? There it is. So I've taken this picture looking down this way. So we stayed at the Vert in Eilat, and I was looking that way. So you have Egypt over here, you have Aqaba, Jordan, and you have Saudi Arabia. And you can see when it's daylight, I've got pictures, you can see all three countries, four if it standing in Israel from right here at the Vert in Eilat. But that's what you're looking at, looking down. And then day 13, I'll go through kind of quickly here. We went to Petra, Jordan. It was an optional trip. Anyone that wanted to go, it cost a little bit more, but we went. This is where they filmed. You would see in Indiana Jones that treasury that's there. You'll recognize it. There's not a lot of biblical significance. There is in the area. There's a little bit. We saw a couple places just driving through. But this was like, if there was one place or one part of the trip that I was a little uneasy, it was when we went into Jordan. And I know Jordan and Israel have a decent relationship, but the whole feeling changed in the trip. In order for us to get from the border on Israel's side into Jordan, we showed our passport. Was it 5 times? One was 5 and one was 6. We either showed it 5 times going into the country or 6 times going in, and vice versa when we came back out. And they have a section in this particular border crossing they call no man's land. And it's probably 100 yards-ish, maybe a little bit longer, give or take. And it's like this wide open, it's in the middle of the desert. They have this wide open area where you're leaving Israel. You've gone through the last security checkpoint on the Israel side, and you walk through a section that's probably, I'd say 25, 30 yards wide by 100 yards long, and it's just wide open. And it's like almost like you're in a prison. You have the big fence that's up, and then there is nobody and nothing in between. And so you're walking from the point of Israel over to get into Jordan. And they just call it no man's land. There's not security. There's security right when you leave the gate from Israel. And then you can look when you approach a little bit further down, when you start seeing people and they're standing there with their rifles and all that stuff, the military, and they're outside the fence, and there's a couple inside the fence. But in that section, there's just no one there. And they just tell you to keep walking, don't stop. And so that's when we get to the Jordan side. They look at our credentials. I don't remember how many times we mazed through a couple things, and then, but it was just different. And I know, those guys they've been over there almost every year that I recall that Stephanie has done this trip. They've gone to Petra, and she has her group of people that she knows that we're going to the same places, the same bus company, the same guy that drives, the same tour guide. But it was just something different about it. I actually got in somewhat trouble. You're not supposed to take pictures of the secure facility, and I think I took this picture, and there was a lady standing kind of off to my right, and she said, "No pictures," and so I got one, right? But that was it. So, but let me go back real quick. I'll just show you. This where it says Jordan border, right here at the top. This is where we crossed and went into Aqaba. This was the border crossing. We went from Israel and that no man's land is about right here. But anyways, so we go into Jordan. It's very hilly, very mountainous. You'll see some pictures of that. Yes. No, we just walked. Yeah, and once we got to the Jordan side, we went through 2 or 3 places there to show our credentials, our passport, and they give you like a sticker or like a, I don't know, what would you call that, dear? Like something, and you do not lose that. Like that's just as valuable as your passport. So, huh? It's a blue receipt. I've got it somewhere. And we got a green one, I think, whenever we came back in. But that little sliver of paper, piece of whatever it is, you have to have. They tell you to tuck it into your passport and don't lose it because it's just as important as your passport. And then they check you in through, like, as a group. They question you and all that fun stuff. And then a bus is waiting for you outside the fence on the Jordanian side. And this is just, we've gone up a massive mountain pretty much, and we're kind of plateaued up here, and you can just see it's very pretty. There's another one. We'll skip that. Those are camels out in the middle of the desert. And this is some of the living that's out there. I mean, we probably climbed a couple thousand feet. We went up forever and ever. My ears popped a bunch of times. We kind of plateaued. You can still see the previous pictures. There were still some mountain ranges beside us, but we're really high up right now. And this is just some of the living that you see smack dab in the middle of the desert. There's more camels. I don't think I took any captions. I don't know, Dwight. That's a good question. There were pockets of places that were like a gas station would be, and like more civilized, but most of it looked about what you saw. There wasn't any, we didn't go past any cities. I'm sure there's some at some point, but we didn't go past any. This was actually a very busy highway that we went through, and I can't tell you the geography of what was next, like what big city there was, but there was trucks, like 18-wheelers galore out here as we traveled. I'm just taking pictures. The pictures don't do them justice, right? When you're there and you can see just how beautiful that it is. So we're almost to King's Highway. It's the oldest known road, around 3,300 years ago in the book of Numbers. We're getting ready to turn on, made a left on the King's Highway. I'm pretty sure there were signs, but I just wasn't able to take pictures. But the way down there in the valley that you see, that is Israel in the background. There we go. So that is, I don't know if you see my little emoji there, but this is the tomb of Aaron. This is what's recognized as the tomb of Aaron, Moses' brother, right? Mount Hor, with a mosque built on top of it. And I put that emoji, like rolling your eye emoji. Of course, they would build a mosque on top of what would be Aaron's tomb. I thought was interesting. We just don't see it here, guys. You might appreciate this, but this the tour bus that we were on, I don't know if I got a picture of it or not, is actually really nice. Leather seats. It hadn't been used but maybe 3 or 4 months, but it was a standard shift. And that guy was just rolling through the gears like he knew exactly, like a big tour bus that holds 40-some people. And he's just, you can see it's a standard shift. And I thought, well, he was actually a really good driver, but you can see it was extremely nice bus. That's just another picture of where the tomb of Aaron, or the recognized tomb of Aaron. This is what they refer to as the Valley of Moses. And then this is Petra. I'll go through this relatively quick. You can see there's people, if you wanted to, you could ride horse. This was actually a really long walk. Lord have mercy. What was that? 3 miles. I forgot. It was what is it? 1.8 each way. There's Jen. She was excited to ride the horse. I know it's weird. It was actually kind of chilly. You see, like you're in the middle of the desert, right? And it's sunshine. You're like, it should be hot, but it's actually pretty chilly. No, so this is actually in Petra itself. I took a mental note that day that we were on Kings Highway that's referred to. So this is just a very long path headed down into Petra. We're actually in Petra now, but we're going down to the treasury that you see. You'll recognize it here in a minute when we get there. It's at the bottom of the Valley of Moses. So there were actually quite a few people there the day that we were there on a regular basis. I don't know. Tourism is down there as well in Jordan, and more vastly in Israel itself. I think we went to what was the wood shop that we went to where they gave me that little statue thing? It was in the bottom of a mall or anyways, those folks down there said that they would see, before everything happened from October 7th, they would see 5 to 6 to 7 tour buses a day. And they hadn't seen that in a year. So the drastic, how tourism is so huge over there, how much that had fallen off. No, it was just like vast desert rock the whole way. The civilizations that have been there before, you can see where they have carved out, like right here. I couldn't tell you how old that was. There, we did have a tour guide that talked a little bit. We had our pieces in, but Chelsea and I we were the designated people to be in the very back to make sure our group, nobody got left behind and everybody got down. And so he was too far ahead. He explained a lot of things that we just couldn't hear because the transmission just wasn't good. So I'm sure there's some neat things about this that I just. No, well, there are guys there that would sell you something for like $4 or $5. Yeah. Yeah. We're pretty remote though. There's not a whole lot. Now behind me, I didn't take a picture. There's somewhat of a city behind us. We had lunch at, or dinner at rather, when we came back out. It was a nice restaurant. But you can kind of see we go down in between these rocks, and we don't come out of them forever. It was a long time. And there was an archway that was here. You can kind of see this is a little bit of a remnant there on your left-hand side towards the top. I could barely hear him. He was talking about something, that archway that came up and came over to the other side. And these guys were just kind of, being goofy, kind of representing the times. Yeah. Oh, here's what it looked like. It's inverted, sorry. But that was just a picture. And you kept going downhill, and the walls just kept getting taller and taller and taller, and it kept getting colder and colder and colder. And this is the treasury. This is, I think I got a better, there you go. So that is the famous scene. This is where they filmed Indiana Jones. This is the place that they did that here in Petra. Again, by the time we got down here, he had told some things about, we just didn't hear because we weren't close enough. it was really neat to see. Yeah, I remember that now. There were different vantage points that you could get up on and take pictures. We were kind of unaware that you had to pay to do those, and we started taking off. I didn't take a picture, but to the left of us there were some cliff faces. You could get up and look at this, looking down this way, or look at it this way, but you had to pay, and it was steep, and it was actually, there was a couple of them, like one wrong step and you're tumbling about 70, 80, 90 feet, and it ain't gonna be a good day for you. I was actually shocked. There's no railing, there's no like ropes or anything. Like, you pay a guy at the foot of the hill and you go at your own risk. We started to go climb up to the one on the left. I don't have a picture of it, and they're like, "Where are you going?" We're like, "Well, we're going to go up here and take a picture like everybody else." "No, you got to pay for that." So we ended up not going, but anyways, then we walked on down the valley, took these pictures. This was pretty neat. And this was, so to kind of put it in perspective, we were down in this valley here for about, what would you say, about 15 minutes, maybe 20, something like that. And then we had to be back at 4:30. We had 4 minutes to spare. We had to be back at this place. This is where we ate our dinner at. You can see it's 2:08 here. We meandered for 15, 20 minutes. And then we hiked it. Like, we huffed and puffed, and it's steep all the way back up. Most people had taken a little golf cart, paid to go back up, which is fine. But we didn't want to leave anybody behind, because some people had already left. Almost as soon as they got down, they turned around and started walking back up, because we just didn't have the time. But so that is Petra. How much did I eat? At that restaurant, hardly anything. That was one of the few times in my life where I was thankful. Let's see, was it where were we? I had McDonald's. Do what? Yeah, 3 or 4 times. I don't really care for McDonald's. And if you do, that's fine. It's just not my cup of tea. So I don't eat there very often. I usually just avoid it, but it was a lifesaver in Israel. I lost 15 pounds while we were there. That's a true story. I lost 15 pounds in about 16 days over there. And this might be too graphic for some people, but I'll just tell you that my gut and my bowel movements changed because of the food over there. In a good way, though. It was different, but you didn't have all the fats. You didn't have all the stuff that we put in our food. And it took about 3 or 4 days. I was like, oh, for me anyways, there was a very noticeable change in the way my body reacted and all that stuff. And I'll just leave it at that, because nobody wants to hear the rest. Right? All right. So this is our day back to. We went on a hike on this day. It was just a hike that Stephanie always does. I forgot the name of it, but this was in the morning. See, it's very beautiful. It's very very crisp and clean. I'll just point out to you real quick, just so the lay of the land. Again, we're looking southward. This is the Red Sea. This is Egypt over here, the mountain range. If you look back here, in between these two buildings, that's Saudi Arabia, and then over here is Jordan, and then obviously we're in Israel. So you can stand there, you can see all 4 countries, including Israel, as you're standing there. We get really close to the Egyptian border quite a few times. We're going way back up on a mountain. You can see the Red Sea barely down there in the valley. You can see the border right there. No, we didn't see any hitchhikers. No. We saw some bicyclists. Like those guys were crazy. Like I'm telling you, we were way back up on a mountain, and wherever they come from, they had to go up a hill and down a massive hill. But that is the Egyptian border. You can see that fence right there. This is a border crossing into Egypt. We've kind of plateaued back up on that mountain. No, very serious. You can't, like, you wouldn't dare approach. Yeah, there's nothing open, no fences that are got holes cut in them. And then we just went on a hike. There were some somewhat dangerous places, I would say. Huh? It was great. She's living on the edge, y'all. She is living on the edge. This is like the leisurely part of our trip. And this, we're just coming back down the mountain, back to Eilat. That's the Red Sea again, back there, the blue in the bottom. And that is Saudi Arabia. And then here is, I don't think this is the full one. Something messed up in my camera. This is a time-lapse video. I think there's another one. Yeah. So we went for a walk this day, stuck our feet in the Red Sea. We weren't sure if we were going back the next day. We actually went back. This is our 15th day here. The next day, the next morning, we actually got up. I'll show you. And we went to the Red Sea. It was very cold. Here's the time-lapse video of the sunset. That's Egypt in the background, by the way. We went way back up on that mountain to the right. Was the day before yesterday. Yes, it was very, very windy. Yeah. This is that evening we took a picture. You saw that in the time-lapse video, but very pretty, very beautiful. And then day 15, I'm sorry. So this is, you didn't take any pictures of us snorkeling, did you? No, I didn't either. So yeah, this was somewhat on a whim. This was kind of a free day. Aaron, the bus driver, he was going around town, and every 2 hours, right, throughout the day, he would stop at different places, and they'd tell you where, so you could go wherever you wanted in that time frame around Eilat. It's a very safe city, and we decided to go snorkeling. Some people were going on like a glass bottom boat, and we decided to go snorkeling because, we said, when's the next time that we're going to be in Israel and be able to swim in the Red Sea? So we decided to go snorkeling. There was, let's see, there were 6 of us, right? It was Fred and Alice, me and Chelsea, and then, yeah. Anyways, but Alice, she has been all over the world, and she has snorkeled in all the places that you would ever dream of snorkeling in. And she told us she was going. She was excited about going, and then like right as we were getting ready to get in the water, she's like, "It is like super cold. I don't like, I can't do this." And so we kind of like, "Hey, come on, like just come on, Allison." And so it was very choppy, very windy, very cold. And so she gets in. There was 5 of us that gets in. Fred wasn't feeling well. But she said that that is the best snorkeling I've ever seen, and I've been everywhere. She's been, you could name it, she's been there. She's actually traveling nowish, or in the next week or two. She's going over to her grandson is sick. But anyways, she travels a lot. But she said this was by far the best snorkeling. You would see like all the collar fishes, like this color. you'd see the neon oranges like the Nemos, and they were all different shapes and sizes, and there you could tell that some of them had like their own little territory where they were under like a little rock cliff face, and there was a rope out there, and you took that rope and you could help pull yourself, on down through, and then turn around and come back, and don't let go of the rope because it was rough. But as we went up and down through a couple different times, you'd see the same fish sitting in the same little cove or underneath a rock face, and some were like this long and about that tall, and some were this, and different sizes and like, oval shaped. It was very neat. It was very, it was awesome to be able to do. So we did that on our last day, and this was the longest day. On the way down, we were up 32 hours on the way down. I was, sorry. I can't sleep on planes. We know some people here can sleep on buses and planes and everywhere, right? We saw evidence of that. I just can't. And but this was a really long day. We got up normal time, about 7:30 that morning, whatever it was. And then our flight didn't leave until 5 a.m. the next morning. Okay. And so to kind of put this in perspective, we did get a late checkout. We checked out about 4 in the afternoon, but I tried to take a nap, really didn't work. And so we were up from about 7:30 that morning. It was 47 hours on the way back, like for me. So we left, it was 5:30 in the morning. We went from Tel Aviv to Cyprus to, help me, dear. Gosh. Yeah. Anyways, why can't I think of that airport now? The longest flight time, so we flew on the way over from JFK straight into Tel Aviv. It was a nonstop flight. That was 10 and a half hours for that flight. Yes. And then on the way back, so we had to do a little puddle jump to Cyprus, and then Cyprus to, Lord have mercy, I can't remember. And then we actually flew back into Atlanta. And then we flew from Atlanta to Charleston. But on the way there, we flew from Charleston to Atlanta to JFK, and then JFK over. But this was just a really long day. We got home with the jet lag coming back. Actually, I didn't feel a whole lot of that. I was just exhausted when we got back, so it didn't really matter. We got back about 11:30, 2 days later. Like if you count the hours, it was 47 hours from the time that 7:30 in the morning on the last day until we got back. And then we had a pretty lengthy layover in Lord have mercy, I can't remember. We had a decent one in Amsterdam. There we go. We had a decent layover in Amsterdam, and then we had a decent one in Atlanta, because flying back into Charleston, there's just not a lot of options to go in and out. So, anyways, but the last picture here, that is Edo. You can see this is 10 o'clock at night. We are in, help me, Jaffa, the old city of Jaffa. We had dinner. We just got finished eating dinner here. And then we get to the airport about midnight-ish, about 11:30. And then Edo says bye to us all, and then he takes off. We stay at the airport. There wasn't any sense of getting a hotel and spending 3 or 4 hours in it and then getting up at midnight. They want you there. International flights out of Tel Aviv, it was 4 hours before your flight takes off to make sure you get through all the little checkpoints, and you've got that. They give you that little paper again, like we got going to and from Jordan. They give you that little ticket at a little counter, and you've got to make sure you have that a few hours later when you hand your passport over to get back to your flight. So what'd he say? Oh, yeah. Wayne, if it makes you feel any better, I was worried about Chelsea, so I took hers and I put it in my pocket. So Listen, I'll give her credit. She was a very integral part of me surviving the plane flights. She was like my mom. Like, hey, you want a snack, or do you want this, or here's a pillow, here's a but all right, questions. Be that guy. Yeah, it was. I think that it would have been okay at the end of the day. Ito knows a lot of folks, so. But, anyways, we certainly enjoyed it. So, all right. Well, let's do this. We'll have prayer, and then we'll give a minute or two those that want to stay for communion. And then we'll have the men come up and make the table ready. But let's do this. If you'll stand, we'll have a quick word of prayer.